On this conversation, we talk with Anthony Dix on how ministry leaders can make it through adversity and thrive on the other side. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another conversation that we get to have here on the Church Leadership Lab. My name is Scott. I'm one of your hosts, and man, I love getting to have these conversations with the hopes of empowering healthy churches. We get to talk with all sorts of people from all sorts of backgrounds, ultimately to encourage you as a church leader, to help strengthen you and ultimately strengthen and build a healthy church and the ministry going on wherever you are. So thank you so much for listening. We have a great conversation today with Anthony Dix. Now, before we jump into that, I would love to ask you a favor. Man, we love getting to have these conversations and we want more and more people to benefit from them. So if you could leave a review, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, share a link. If you listen somewhere else, whether Spotify, YouTube, send that to somebody. All of that just helps to get these conversations into more people's ears and hopefully strengthen more churches. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Now, into the conversation today with Anthony Dix. Now, he is a leader's leader with a passion for leadership development with emerging leaders across multiple industries. He spent over 2 decades coaching people with diverse responsibilities, ultimately to help them reach their optimal leadership potential. He possesses a bachelor's of science degree in applied mathematics from North Carolina A&T State University, a master's of business administration degree from Webster University, and an executive certificate in digital marketing from Cornell University. He's a certified DISC consultant and John C. Maxwell team member. He's currently a doctoral student in the strategic leadership program at Liberty University. And Anthony has a tremendous background in ministry, in pastoring that he's going to share with you. So without further ado, enjoy this conversation with Anthony Dix. Well, Anthony, thanks so much for taking some time today to come on the podcast. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. I am elated to share with you today. I can't wait to get into this conversation. And thanks again, man. I don't know what I did to be invited onto your podcast platform, but I am grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to talk about all things walking through adversity. What does that look like for church leaders, pastors? How do you do that well? How do you thrive through that? But before we jump in, I love asking this question. We ask it to every guest. What's one thing that doesn't make the public bio, but all your friends, all your family know about you?
Man, that's a good question. Oh man. Well, you know what? I have the opportunity to speak so much and I try to be transparent. So there may be more people than just, my family, friends who know this, but maybe not as intimately. I love the fantasy adventure genre of movies.
Yeah.
So movies like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The Hobbit. Even I've recently gotten into Star Trek, Star Wars, of course. Any of that stuff is really like, I'm into that to the degree where if I'm watching that movie or any type of those movie series, I can't be around my children or my wife. Like, no, because y'all gonna ask too many questions about what's going on here. And I don't really want to dive because I'm still trying to figure out what J.R.R. Tolkien means by all of this stuff. Yeah. Like I'm the type of guy like The Matrix. I tell people this, if we get into a conversation about The Matrix, watch The Matrix in reverse order, and it is extremely revelatory. Like you hear stuff that you would not have heard. So watch it 1, 2, 3, and then go back and go do 3, 2, 1, and it is just amazing. So that's something that probably shouldn't go in the bio, but it's not in the bio. And that's just a little bit about how my mind works.
Yeah, I've watched enough. I have some friends that similar love that kind of genre. I've watched enough of them to know you don't ask questions. You just keep going, and you miss some things and you don't understand it. But you don't ask people who love that stuff questions because it's like save that for later, but not during.
Thank you. I can't wait to show people or give people access to this podcast so that they know that. So it's not just me. Like it's really just, there's some sociology to this thing, man. It's not just your daddy.
Yeah.
It's not just your husband. There are other people out there like me.
Yeah.
So cool. I appreciate
It's
that. I'm going to put that in my
it's
cap
general
and
knowledge.
roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, I'd love to jump in. I know in talking with you previously, you have a diverse background that includes leadership across the nonprofit space, leading leaders, as well as pastoring. So can you just kind of give people a little bit of more context, specifically to your ministry background and how that's kind of influenced how you coach and lead leaders?
Sure. I am the son of a preacher. No pun intended, son of a preacher man. That's really who I am. My dad was not like the dude in that song, but anyway, so I've been involved in church all of my life. I've been in ministry formally as a minister about 26 years at this point. And I've served in several different capacities of leadership for the last 13, going on 14 years. I've been serving as a senior pastor. And my dad, growing up and to this day, is still bivocational. So I have known what it's like to be a full-time pastor and known what it's like to be a bivocational pastor, bivocational executive pastor, bivocational youth pastor, those kinds of things. And as I've matriculated in the church in the 1990s, of course, unto now, there's been so much of a proliferation of leadership content within the church, particularly when it comes to developing as leaders. So I came into ministry at a high time in the church when the church was having significant conversations about ministers and leadership, both ecclesially and in the marketplace. And given my, as you say, my diverse, some people call it eclectic, background through several different industries, I've gained a lot of experience. And this is one of the things that, I often don't get to talk about. In some church streams and contexts, many of the people working in ministry are volunteers.
Yeah.
And they may be volunteering or assuming responsibility at church in a capacity that they do not have on their job, where they may be managing people at church, but they do not have management responsibility on their job. And as a pastor, I found that it's my responsibility to try to close that leadership gap, to arm them with the necessary skills, soft skills and hard skills, to be able to lead well in the church context, even if it doesn't grow into them assuming management responsibility in a secular context. And that's what kind of drives my affinity for leadership development and coaching. I believe that all of us have leadership capacity, and it is unfortunate in many of our institutions, both our sacred and secular institutions, not enough time and attention is given to equipping leaders and to develop them. And that's one of the driving forces behind why I do what I do.
Yeah. Well, certainly that eclectic background as well gives you better perspective, because if you kind of leading in ministry, I've always said, is unique. Like you mentioned, leading volunteers. I mean, how do you influence, grow, shepherd, push the mission forward with people who are really just there because they want to be, right? There's no paycheck. There's no, if they quit tomorrow, life goes on for them, but I find that eclectic background probably equips you in a way that is unique to then be able to do that, given you've had those experiences.
And I'm doing it. In many instances, I was doing it without pay, like they have been doing it. Sometimes you have commonality with regards to we all feel called to do this, but there are other things that I've learned that motivate people that have nothing to do with money. And as leaders, if we can find points of inspiration to inspire people to aspire to be something great, it doesn't always have to be connected to physical resources. And those, to me, are opportunities to create the greatest gains because they are not doing it for a paycheck. They're really doing it to become who God has created them to be and willing to pay certain prices in order to eventually realize what they visualized in their mind. And having walked in those shoes may give me a little more empathy, definitely, to see certain nuances that others may not see and take certain things into account in order to grow and coach and lead, because people are people regardless of the context. And so people can be getting paid at a nonprofit and still not be motivated by pay to serve in the nonprofit. And we still have responsibilities as leaders to find those points of inspiration and motivation and really help people grow from there.
Well, if you're in ministry, then you know church operations can be a huge challenge. There's a lot to do, little time to do it, and whether it's just you or you have a team, my guess is you have a full plate. So how do you do things like communication and engagement, stewarding your finances, managing your digital presence, fostering community, and so much more in a way that builds a healthy church? Well, answering that question was the goal of creating the Guide to Healthy Church Operations. We wanted to take our 40 plus years of experience serving the church, combined with wisdom from various experts, to provide a blueprint for how you can navigate the ever-changing world of church operations. In this guide, you'll find things like how to improve member engagement and participation, building into staff and volunteers, making better decisions with clear metrics, the essentials of financial stewardship for churches, and so much more. And of course, we wanted to give this to you for free. So there's a link in the show notes to download the Guide to Healthy Church Operations. And we would love for you to grab a copy and use it to help grow a healthy church. Man, that's fantastic. We're not even 10 minutes in, and I feel like you're already giving people plenty to walk away with. And man, so excited to dive into more. Now, our conversation is going to kind of center around the topic that I know you're familiar with, as you wrote a book about it. We're going to talk about how church leaders can walk through adversity and, one, make it through, but two, hopefully make it through and thrive on the other end. So as we jump in, can you just kind of bring us into the catalyst that kind of led to writing this book?
Sure. The title of the book is called Holy Hardship: How Jesus Turns Your Adversity into an Advantage. And that book was born out of a significant season of trial, tribulation, and adversity in my pastoral ministry. It was, as I allude to in the book, a dark season. And I learned through that dark season how not only to survive adversity in ministry, but to thrive amid adversity, especially when it is what I call a holy hardship. Holy hardship is a cross-shaped adversity where you are having challenges horizontally and vertically. Like, I'm not seeing eye to eye with the people, and I'm not seeing eye to eye with God. And that cruciform shape of adversity, to me, is what Christianity is all about, because we serve a Christ who is having challenges with the people on this planet, the Sanhedrin, Roman government, chief priests and elders, but also was having a challenge with his Father, to which he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? The cross brings that out. And experiencing that kind of hardship and what I thought was a successful season that led to a suffering season in ministry was really the catalyst for why I wrote that book.
Well, I think that even as you're talking about adversity, ministry leaders, church leaders, pastors listening to this are like, you say no more, right? Like I get it as well, because they've walked through it, are walking through it, or will walk through it. I think adversity is a given in ministry, and it can be crushing at times. So for you, what are some of the common mistakes that you see pastors and church leaders make when they find themselves in the midst of trials, adversity, especially, like you said, the holy hardships?
One of the challenges with a holy hardship particularly, and adversity in general, right? Adversity in general is uncomfortable and nobody wants to experience it.
Yeah.
And many of us as church leaders and pastors in particularly want to avoid controversy and adversity, particularly within our pastoral or leadership ministry. We're kind of wired to, yes, we want to resolve conflict, but if we can't avoid conflict, that's usually our primary predilection. That's our primary disposition and posture. And the mistake I think we often make is not allowing our theology to bleed into our praxis. Like the entire ordeal of Christianity centers around a controversy, the scandal of the cross. And if Jesus, as perfect as he was, as impactful as he was as a minister, a leader, an apostle, whatever it is you decide to call him, his ministry looked like it ended for a moment controversially.
Yeah.
And this is, Scott, this is one thing. Now, I never forget this. I know we were talking about movies earlier, but when I had the opportunity to go see Passion of the Christ, and regardless of how you feel about that movie, one of the things that really brought me to tears was not seeing Jesus beaten with the Roman flagellum, not having to read all those, captions. It was when they brought Jesus the cross, he had the cross on his shoulders. And as bruised and as battered as he was, he hugged it. He embraced it. And I think one of the things that many of us as church leaders miss as an opportunity to really become something more than what we've ever been before is instead of embracing adversity, we try to escape it. And there's some adversity where it doesn't matter what you do. The only way out of it is to become someone different. And so that's one of the things that I think we miss is we miss opportunities to really embrace adversity as an opportunity to grow into someone that we would not have been had not the adversity come.
Yeah. So it sounds like one of the things, like what you're saying is really, it can be a mindset and a perspective because by embracing adversity to say, man, this is going to grow me into somebody that I'm not already, doesn't change the circumstance. It doesn't change actually what's happening.
No.
Is that kind of what you're saying then? Is changing that perspective is so key to them walking through it in a way that it has a deeper meaning?
Exactly. You know as well as I do, Scott, that one of the superpowers of any leader is perspective. And so if you can evolve in your perspective or maintain a healthy perspective, particularly in adversity, to see how it can grow you, you can get the most out of it. You can find the advantage in the adversity. It's just difficult to maintain that perspective. And what I allude to in the book is this simple premise. One is two premises, but one is trouble changes you. The only question is, who is trouble going to change you into? Yeah. That's the question. Trouble is going to change you. The question is, who is it going to change you into? I argue in the book that you can take an advantage of your adversity if you handle your hardship like Jesus handled his. None of us are going to die to save everybody's soul. Jesus did that once and for all. But he did leave a caricature and a model as to how Christian leaders particularly can handle hardship. And if you handle your hardship like Jesus handled his, you can take advantage of adversity. But it takes a perspective. It takes that perspective.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to jump into maybe a little bit of, how you do that. Not everything, obviously, because I do want to encourage people to grab the book. But oftentimes, like the goal is, let's just get through this. Let's get through difficult times. But you talk about actually you can come out on the other end and thrive. Like you can experience positive change even in the midst of negative things. So what are a few of those keys to actually making it through to the other side of adversity and find yourself in a place where you're thriving?
Two things. I'll give you two things, Scott. One is know your role. The second thing is to do something holy in a hostile environment. right?
All right.
Know your role.
Can we dive into those a little bit?
Why not, man? Let's do it. So when it comes to knowing your role, this lends itself to a more literary aspect of reading the Bible, that the Bible as a collection of stories follows some story theory and some story framework. So for the person undergoing the hardship, you are assuming not a victim role, right? You're not assuming a victim role. Jesus dies to save. He doesn't die to be saved. So he's not playing the victim in the hardship. Jesus is the hero. And so if you're going through holy hardship, you have to know your role. My role is to be what I call a heroic leader. Heroic leader. In the literature, if you study Greek mythology and the ancient literary works of antiquity, you will find that many of the heroes were either exemplifying virtues that the people in that nation should assume, or vices that people in that culture should avoid. So as a heroic leader, you should exhibit virtues that people should assume who are following you, the people that you lead. And if, as the Lord worked this in me and showed me a few things, he said, I'll give you an example, because we keep talking about movies. Can you tell I love movies? I do. I really do.
Hey, it's great. I love it.
So he told me as I was going through my hardship, he said, I want you to watch a movie or two and tell me what the condition of the hero was by the end of the movie. And so I watched movies like Transformers. I watched a little bit, of course, of The Hobbit. I watched Avengers, and I watched a few other movies. And there was a pattern in all of those movies. By the end of each of those movies, the hero was changed for the better, but every one of those heroes were bruised, battered, a little bit beaten, and bleeding.
Yeah.
And so the character transformation of each of the heroes in those movies were similar to the character transformation of the heroes in the biblical narrative. Joseph doesn't get to the palace pristine. David doesn't get to the throne pristine. Paul doesn't get to the end of his story pristine. They've all had trial, tribulation, and persecution. So the transformation of a hero includes adversity. So the adversity makes you better. And that's how you got to know your role. And when you know that you're a hero, and that's what God is making you to be, you know that your identity can only be transformed if you experience some adversity. That adversity is really going to bring the best out of you.
Yeah.
Now, once you know that, you can hopefully do something holy in a hostile environment.
Yeah.
Jesus, when he was in front of the Sanhedrin, the chief priest, he didn't speak a lot. It wasn't until Jesus was on the cross that he began to speak at a greater frequency and with more volume. As a sheep is before his shearers is dumb, so was he, right? He didn't speak to Pilate a lot. He didn't speak to Caiaphas and Annas a lot. But when he got on that cross, he was talking. And I remember during my season, I had to preach and pastor people who were hostile. I had to humble myself and do something holy in a hostile environment. And for Jesus, it was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was healing Malchus's ear. It was speaking to the women saying, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves. It was telling the thief on the cross, today shall you be with me in paradise, saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So doing something holy in a hostile environment not only blesses the people around you, but it transforms you too. So know your role and commit to doing something holy in a hostile environment.
Yeah, I think those two things alone, there's so much in letting go. So knowing your role, you let go of, I need to be this or that, or I need to change this person or do things that you cannot do out of your control. It's letting go. But there's also an aspect of, I am going to control what I can control, which is me, which is what I do, what I say, and that do something holy in a hostile environment gives you something to actually step into that, makes such a difference. Even if this is only what it makes a difference in your own soul, as you're walking through that. I think those two things are so powerful.
Yeah, what you said about doing something for your own soul. Jesus said to 3 of the 12, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful. His mind, his emotions, and adversity does something to the soul. And what often gets neglected as church leaders and pastors navigate adversity is care for their own soul.
Yeah.
It is easy because we're so dutiful. We know our call, we know our duty, that we can maintain, even in adversity, we can maintain soul care for others, but we neglect soul care for ourselves. And sometimes the holy thing that's done in a hostile environment is ensuring the soul care of the sufferer and not just the soul care of the people who are around you.
Yeah. What were some things that were important either to your soul care during that season or that you learned after the fact and might say, man, if I had to walk through that again, here's what I would prioritize to care for my own soul?
One thing, I'm glad you asked that question. One thing that I would have prioritized more was physical exercise. Some type of physical exertion. Because an unhealthy mind can do some dangerous things to a healthy body. And so to combat some of that, I would have taken more time to invest in my own physicality, what I'm eating, my nutrition, staying active, breaking a sweat, going on a walk, because those things do something for the soul. They help get your mind off of things. They can teach you different ways and to focus and maintain your concentration. So I definitely would have done that. The second thing that I did this, I don't know if I knew to do this, but I knew it was bad enough where I needed it. And I talk a little bit about it in the book is I went to therapy.
Yeah.
Like not pastoral counseling. I went to a licensed therapist and sat on a couch. If you are on a cross in ministry, you should find a couch from a counselor to really help maintain a healthy perspective and to put in guardrails, because the counselor equipped me and told me that certain modes of thinking was going to cause me physical harm. So telling me there's certain responsibilities I should probably put down while I'm going through some administrative things that I was used to do. Is like, that's probably not a good space for you to be in, because access to that kind of information is just not healthy for where you are right now. You might want to consider changing that. So those two things were, particularly counseling, because that's what I did. What I neglected was me physically. I really, really would admonish anybody to invest in both of those. And lastly, community. You can't beat it. Pastors need pastors. And one thing that I know about pastors is we're good at creating community, but very bad at being a part of one that we didn't create.
It's true. It's very true. Spot
so
on.
You need your friends. You're going to need someone wiser than you. You're going to need a place where you don't have to be the guy or the gal or the go-to person. Somewhere where you can really receive ministry without the expectation that you reciprocate.
Yeah. Man, those three alone are essential. I mean, certainly as you're walking through adversity, but just in general, I think for health for church leaders, those are so important. So I really appreciate you sharing and encouraging people. Now, on that note of encouragement, I want to be mindful to somebody listening or watching this who is in the midst of that season, in the adversity, in the difficulty, and maybe even like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm over this. I'm out of here. So what encouragement would you have for any pastors or church leaders who are in the midst of it, who are ready to quit, who just need some wind in their sails?
That's a tough question. And I'm going to be transparent about why it's tough. It's tough because we have scripture that says no man puts his hand to the plow and turning back is worthy of the kingdom of God. And that text alone, of course, with the work ethic, a more puritanical work ethic, an American work ethic, makes quitting a sin. Right? And so we often look at quitting as if it's a sin or as if it's failure. And on the flip side, we can look at quitting as if it's the way out. When I don't think it's either of those. I don't think it's either of those. And so I have to, measure my words and my feedback, because some people who are ready to quit assume that if you're ready to quit, the person encouraging you is going to tell you not to quit. When that's not what I'm going to tell you. What I'm going to say is, don't make that decision by yourself.
That's wise.
When I want to quit is I who want to quit. And if I'm there, if I'm feeling like I want to quit, I am not the best person to make that decision. Don't make a quitting decision unilaterally. Submit yourself to wise counsel. Take somebody else's word more than yours. Because that's what we ask people to do on Sunday. That's what we ask people to do that follow us in church leadership. They're listening to us preach the word of God, teach the word of God, and in a certain way, they are taking our word over the words of their own mind. And so as we encourage others to seek counsel, we should seek counsel too. And that could be the counsel of a therapist, but I think it should be done in concert, that you should have a team of people to whom you are sharing your inner circle. I feel like I'm ready to hang this on up. I can't take anymore. I'm done. And give them the opportunity to provide you with options and solutions as to how to get you back to health and how to also maintain those other responsibilities that you have, because the weight you carry is significant and you are important. You just can't all put it down at one time. So if you're feeling like you are about to quit, don't, please, for the people who love you, the people who care about you, and for your own health, don't make that decision by yourself.
That's good encouragement. And man, I appreciate just the heart in all of this, because it's really measured and it's not, like you said, hey, just go. There's a mission at hand. You got to push through. And it's not all, hey, when it gets hard, go do something else. I think your counsel is really wise and really appreciate it. Now, one of the goals of our podcast is conversations that help empower healthy churches. And there's a lot that goes into a healthy church, but I always love to hear the thoughts of folks that we get to have conversations with in regard to, in your opinion, what's one essential component of a healthy church?
One, I'm a leadership guy. So my answer about this is probably going to be very consistent. A healthy church is led by healthy leaders. And I, as someone who has gone through holy hardship, someone who has been the son of a pastor, right? My dad has been pastoring as long as I've been alive. And I'm at the current moment, 3 years short of 50. And my dad is still pastoring. Right? Wow. He was pastoring before I was born and has been pastoring since I've been born. So seeing ministry from those perspectives, seeing ministry as a secondary leader seeing ministry as someone who's assumed responsibility for a church and as someone who has been involved in a church plant as a senior leader, I've seen enough to know that if the senior leader, if the church leader is healthy, then the church will be just fine. They've said this often. I've heard this said. I don't know who came up with this quote, but I've heard several different people say it, and nobody really gives anybody credit for who said it first. They say you can teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. So regardless of how powerful the teaching and preaching is, that's you teaching, but reproduction is about the health of the congregation. So if you want the congregation to be healthy, then we've got to be healthy. And I just think that too many pastors, church leaders, neglect our health, our physical health, our emotional health, our relational health, our financial health. We neglect that. All to promote church health. When if you're on a plane and those oxygen masks come down, I know you love that child sitting next to you, but in this state, you need to put your oxygen mask on first. That healthy child needs a healthy parent, and a healthy church needs healthy leaders.
Yeah, man. Very, very strong and very, very good encouragement to our church leaders and people listening. I so appreciate it. This conversation's been full of it, full of such good stuff. And so grateful for your time. We're not finished yet. We got our little section we call Final Five. These are more rapid fire, going to come at you quick. We're jumping into the first one. What is one book you'd recommend to church leaders?
One book, I don't know if I have it behind me. If I did, I'd show it to you. But it is The 8 Paradoxes of Great Leadership by Tim Elmore. Anybody leading in the 21st century, you should read that book. It is amazing.
Love it. Love it. We'll link to it. What's the last thing that you listened to? Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to things.
The last thing I listened to was Christian hip hop. I probably was listening to some Lecrae, 1K Few, Bizzle, or something like that. I mean, I love Christian hip hop. That's me. Now this is something I probably should have said this first. What most people may not know about me, even as a pastor, I listen to more Christian hip hop than I do listen to anything praise and worship. Anything. I listen to Christian hip hop more than anything else. Yeah.
As there's good stuff out there. I'll say it's come a long way since 15, 20 years ago.
And so and the whole they've come a long way since I was a child.
Yeah. There's been some growth.
Definitely.
What is your favorite piece of technology or software? And the only rule on this one, you can't say your phone.
Okay. Oh man, you took one. Because I was going to say my notepad on my phone, but since you took away the phone, I like to create. So one of the things that helps me to alleviate stress is creating something, and Canva just does it for me. If I can make a flyer, a graphic, or a picture, or a video, it just relieves stress and tension for me. So I love Canva.
Very cool. What's a quote or piece of advice that stuck with you over the years?
Walter Brueggemann has a commentary on Genesis. And when he gets to Genesis 15, where Abraham is talking about, fear, where God tells Abraham, fear not, I'm your shield and your exceeding great reward, and a whole host of other things. And it's counted unto Abraham as righteousness. He talks about how Abraham was afraid that he wasn't going to have a son. And he says, it really has been challenging me from the day I read it until now. He says that the God of the Bible does not need your potential to perform his promise. That has rocked my world, because as a leader, as a professional, you bank so much of your bottom line and or future on your potential to get it done. My education, my pedigree, my intellect, my charisma. But he says, when God makes a promise, the God of the Bible does not need your potential to perform his promise. And that has changed my life.
Man. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. What is one thing that you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders?
You are well able. That's what I would like to communicate to church leaders. There's a lot that the world is going to demand and is demanding of the church and church leaders. But the Lord left you on this planet because of what he has invested in you. And what he has invested in you is a ton of faith. Don't forget, you believe in God, but God wouldn't call you if he didn't believe in you. He believes that you're able, and you should too.
Love it.
Believe you're able.
That's great. Well, hey, just as we're wrapping up, can you share with our audience two things, actually? One, where they can connect with you, learn more about 180 Management Group and everything you're doing there, but also where they can get a copy of your book as well.
Oh, cool. When it comes to 180 Management Group, where I serve as the senior leadership consultant, you can reach us online at 180managementgroup.com. That is 180managementgroup, all one word, .com. I'd love to have the opportunity to share with you, learn a little bit more about what you're doing. I do have opportunities to coach pastors and leaders, as well as people who are leading in the nonprofit space. I'd love the opportunity to hear your story and see how I can serve you. When it comes to Holy Hardship, you can buy a copy of Holy Hardship on Amazon or wherever books are sold. But if you want something extra, go to holyhardship.com. Holy Hardship, all one word, hardship, no S, holyhardship.com. And you'll get a little bit more than just the book. You'll be able to order the book, and you will also be able to sign up for a 7-day video devotional to teach you how to do something holy in a hostile environment. So I encourage you to visit holyhardship.com.
Man, that's fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for people so they can just do kind of one click, get there and get to, jump into all of that. But Anthony, we thank you so much for your time today, for being on the podcast, sharing your wisdom and sharing what you've learned, not only in walking through hardship, but then really taking that experience and learning from it and then sharing that with others. We so appreciate it.
Listen, it's been my pleasure and honor to have the opportunity to share with such a great host and a wonderful audience. I can't see them, have met none of them. I just get the sense that these are just wonderful people, particularly if they're church leaders. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's our pleasure. We thank you. And we thank those of you listening, watching this. We hope that it's been helpful. Ultimately, we hope that it helps empower healthy churches, to strengthen you in your leadership, to encourage you, maybe to help you walk through a season of adversity. And so if this has been helpful, we'd love to invite you to share it with somebody, whether you send them a link or subscribe, leave a review, a comment. All that does is help this podcast get into more people's ears, hopefully to encourage more church leaders and help build more healthy churches. So thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.